Hear that? Is that America cheering or a sausage patty sizzling to perfection? It's time to cheer for Egg McMuffin and fresh cracked eggs at McDonald's. It's time to wake up to the aroma of freshly baked biscuits and treat yourself to a real honest-to-goodness morning meal. Breakfast, it's on at McDonald's. Now get any breakfast sandwich for just $2. Available only through the app. Mobile order and pay available at participating McDonald's. McD app download and registration required.
Welcome to the Boneyard with Steve Robertson. As always, I am your good friend and host, Steve Robertson, here on the Hump Day edition of the Yard. Hope things are well with you. It's really busy around here in these parts. I hope that you guys are busy too for all the right reasons. Later today, I will be in Meridian, Mississippi at the Bully Shop downtown signing books. Dog pile is off and running. And I have to admit, it's probably exceeded my early expectations. And maybe it's because of the fact that I had thought maybe some of the enthusiasm had waned a bit. You know, you guys set all these records, ordering through Fanatics and all the clothing. Some people even wore off-colored Mississippi State clothing because they were just so eager to have national championship merch. But, yeah, we're off and running, to say the least. Most bookstores are already up in their orders. And here's the reality of this thing, because of the national paper shortage and things like that, there's a real possibility we're going to run out of books before the second printing gets here. But relax. We're going to print some more. Probably have to have 3 or 4 printings before the year is over. Trying to get what we can get. But many of you have already reached out. You've already read the book. That's one of those things, too. It's like you spend all this time and effort putting a book together. You write it. You edit it. They lay it out. There's all this pre-production stuff that goes on, and then you guys read it in like 2 days. And some people have shared with me they're going back to read it again to maybe look for some things that they missed. But, yeah, it's doing great. And so let me give you kind of an update on kind of where I'm going to be and what's going to happen here in the next couple days. I told you guys I will be in Meridian this afternoon. So by the time you listen to the show, maybe I've already come and gone. But, all right, so here is the upcoming schedule, and this stuff will change. We'll add some more dates is my point there. Okay, so I'm going to be at the Bulldog Shop in Meridian, 2:30 to 5 today. Tomorrow I'm doing kind of an interview type deal with the Starkville Library. That's going to be kind of a reading and a meet and greet. That'll be Thursday, February 10th from 12 to 1. That evening, I will be at the Alluvian at an event sponsored by Turnrow Books. It's going to be a happy hour deal from like 5 to 7. Come by and check it out. We'll hang out for a while. Friday, February 11th, I'm at Maroon & Company from 3 to 6. That's this Friday, 3 to 6 at Maroon & Company. Saturday, I'll be in Central Mississippi. That's right, I'll be at Mississippi's bookstore, Lemuria Books, from noon to 2. And then I'll be at Persnickety in Madison from 2:30 to 4:30. Yeah, that's right. So basically, I will leave Lemuria to go directly to Persnickety. So if you miss me in Jackson, come catch me in Madison. And then on Tuesday of next week, February the 15th, I will be at the Y'all Lifestyle Store in Ridgeland. That's right. That's the Bo Bounds place. Tuesday, February 15th. It's the day after Valentine's Day. So if your true love didn't get you a copy of Dog Pile, you can come get it yourself. Next Thursday, February 17th, I'll be at Reed's, Gumtree, and Tupelo. Be sure and come check that out. Friday, February 18th, I'll be downtown at Book Martin Cafe. So if you're coming in to watch the Bulldogs play Long Beach State, that's at 3 o'clock first pitch. So I will be at Book Martin Cafe 11 to 1:30. And I'll leave there and go to Duty Noble Field. And then Saturday, prior to the game on Saturday, that's a 2 p.m. start, I will be at Campus Book Mart from 10 to 12:30. So you're going to have plenty of opportunities to see me, and your shows aren't going to be interrupted. I still got to produce daily content over on genespage.com, so that stuff's not going to change. It's just more on the plate, if you know what I'm saying. So that's kind of where we are and what we're doing. The book is now in several stores. The latest is Lorelei Books there in Vicksburg, Mississippi. So if you are in Vicksburg, run by there and pick up a copy of the book. Those were delivered yesterday, and I believe are on the shelf today. And of course, there's Barnes & Noble in Ridgeland has it. Barnes & Noble in Starkville has it. Barnes & Noble in Tupelo will soon have it. I believe they'll actually have it today. May probably be on the shelves tomorrow. And then all over the greater Starkville area, of course. It's everywhere. It's at Liza Ty, it's at Book Mart and Cafe, Campus Book Mart, Maroon Company, The Lodge. Matter of fact, The Lodge already just about sold out. So everybody's having already to replenish. And guys, the book came out on Friday. Online orders still going well. You can find those at dogpilethebook.com. And let me give you a little bit of information here about personalization. Okay, there is a notes section for you to put if you want me to personalize a book to somebody. If you don't put personalization instructions, I'm just going to sign my name, because I don't know if you're buying it for yourself or for your neighbor or for your best friend or for your boss. And so if you don't put specific notations, you're just going to get a signed book, which is great. It's great. It's not personalized, but it's still great. And so understand, when you go online to dogpilethebook.com and you want it personalized, you've got to specify that. Because I've had some people that said, hey, well, you didn't personalize it. Well, you didn't ask me to. And I don't want to assume, because what if you're buying it for, what if your name is John and you're buying it for your grandfather, Bob, and I write it to John, all of a sudden you're going to give Bob a book that's intended for you. So that's kind of how that works. And again, we've had thousands of online orders, and that's not to say that I may not have made a mistake somewhere. But the reality of it is I don't know that the people involved with the production of the book expected things to explode the way they have. I had a lot of faith in you guys. I knew we would do well. I didn't know that we would do quite so well as we've done in the first week. And so because of limited distribution last week, like the cutoff on the Mississippi bestsellers list is like Sunday. So we were only in a few stores, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So I don't expect it to debut at number one. I think it'll hit the list probably, middle of the pack when it's released this Sunday. And I think next week it goes to number one. And then I think it stays there probably till we run out of books. And once we get some more books, it'll go right back. So excited about it, enjoying your comments. A lot of people have reached out and kind of shared their enthusiasm about the book. If you did order online, your books have been mailed. That's a done deal. If you ordered online, they have been mailed. The overwhelming majority went out on Monday. I would say 95% went out on Monday. There were a handful that went out Tuesday, and I believe there were 2 or 3 orders that were a larger order. Some people order 6, 7, 8 books, and they had to get some more boxes on yesterday. Those went out this morning. So every online order, unless one has happened here in the last 24 hours, has been mailed. Well, I'm getting some messages about that. By and large, I'm seeing a lot of pictures online, people getting their book, and they're excited. A few people said, hey, I hadn't heard anything. And I've done the best I can to communicate with everybody on the show, on social media, Twitter, Facebook, Gene's page, everything. So just be patient. They're coming. And if you don't have it, if you ordered prior to release, let's say you ordered back in September and you hadn't got your book, and if you don't have it this week, you need to reach out to the website. That's the best way, because if you contact me, I'm going to redirect you to the website. I don't run the website. Contrary to popular belief on social media, I didn't self-publish this book. Or the only book I've self-published is the poetry book, and that was just a little family project. But the reality of it is if you bought a book, whether it be Flim Flam, Stark Villains, Alpha Dogs, email the website. There were some communication issues in the beginning when they set that website up. The contact us form wasn't directing those emails to the proper person. So if you've had some success in the past using the Alpha Dogs and Stark Villains website, you're going to have that same level of service now. So this has been, again, the most stressful book writing process for me. Not exactly the writing process, but everything that's happened afterwards because of this paper shortage and delays with the printer. There's just been some things we've had to deal with. But the bottom line is the book is great. The cover is great. The quality of the production is great. And I think you're going to enjoy these books and treasure them for years to come. And I think this is a book, too, that sometimes you read a book and you pass it around. I don't think this is a book you really want to pass around. I think you want to have this on your coffee table or on your mantle, probably a keepsake that you'll treasure for many years to come. At least I hope that's the case. And so even if you borrow somebody else's book to read, buy your own. buy your own and keep it. I work really hard on this for all of you because you are the people that are important to me. I have people all the time that say, well, Steve, would you be willing to write this book? And I'm like, well, yeah, but the price is right. I mean, I guess I probably would. But I really just want to kind of write books about Mississippi State, things that affect Mississippi State. I had somebody ask me recently if, hey, Texas is number one this year, so if they won a national championship, would you be willing to write that book? And yeah, I probably would, but the difference is I don't really know Texas. I could chronicle a season, surely, but what makes this book special is the fact that I was there to witness all this stuff and know the history of the Mississippi State program, and so waited my whole life to write that book. So there you go, dogpilethebook.com. If you need to order online, order through your favorite bookstore. And there's a lot of great independent bookstores in Mississippi carrying the book. And, Friendly Books over in Friendly City Books over in Columbus. It's a new bookstore, and so we're in there for the first time. So excited about that. I know many of you have already gone in there and purchased those books, and so I'll be there on the 24th, I guess it is. But it's all shaping up to really roll and do a good job. And so excited for you and excited for me, and starting to panic a little bit, about when the next printing of books is going to show up. Maybe April. It's like we're in February, and you think, are we going to survive the month of February with books? Because you guys are buying them up. And you know what? Go ahead and buy them. I don't need you to hold anything back. Buy them, and we're going to print more. Simple as that. Let's thank our good friends at Bulldog Burger Company, longtime sponsors of this show. One of my favorite places to eat. And one of the main reasons why is not only is the cuisine such high quality, is I know what I'm going to get. I know the consistency and the experience. Some places you go and it's kind of hit or miss. They usually bet close to 1,000 at Bulldog Burger Company. I've never had a negative experience there. I know when I go in there, I'm going to get a well-trained staff. I'm going to get a quality meal at a great price and get a great portion. And I'm going to leave there satisfied and feeling good about my dining decision. A lot of times I go and think, that's not a do-over. Not at Bulldog Burger Company. You go some other places and you think, I don't know if I'm going to be craving this for a while. As soon as I leave Bulldog Burger Company, I'm thinking, you know what? Next time I come back, I'm going to get this. Or I should have got this. I'm going to get this next time. That's the thing about having a favorite place to go eat. And I know your kids love Bulldog Burger Company. What kid wouldn't love Bulldog Burger Company? They get that Bulldog burger. They get the Bulldog on the bun. Outstanding. Be sure and go by and check them out. 3 great locations to serve you. University Drive here in Start Vegas, Gloucester Street there in Tupelo, and the new one, Lake Harbor Drive there in the Richmond Flowood area. Go by and let them know that I sent you and enjoy your meal. Bulldog Burger Company, the place where people go to meet. MEAT. Did you guys watch the Auburn-Arkansas game last night? It was electric, man. It's a great college basketball game. Of course, Arkansas wins, and J.D. Notae was outstanding. But I thought really the difference down the stretch, especially in overtime, was Jalen Williams. He was the guy that hit the big three to beat us. We were up there over the weekend. Arkansas's won now 8 in a row and just took down the number 1 team in the country. And I thought their defensive effort gave Auburn some trouble. Auburn is so athletic, especially on the perimeter. Sometimes when things break down, they can just kind of manufacture a basket. But I didn't think they looked like a well-oiled machine offensively. I think Arkansas really disrupted them a little bit. And, of course, you don't have your starting point guard. It's going to happen. But a huge win for Arkansas. Shake some things up. And then some would suggest, it makes us feel a little bit better about our loss to Arkansas. No, nothing's going to make me feel better about us losing a basketball game, especially when every win matters to us, is we're battling to get into the NCAA tournament. So the next one up for us, of course, is Tennessee. That'll be tonight. Hopefully you can make it. If not, you can watch it at home. Going to be a big ball game. 8 p.m. tip. I don't think I'll make it back in time, so I will rush back and probably watch the second half at home after being in Meridian. But this is a huge, huge ball game, as you guys are well aware. And it's not just because it's the next game. It's because this could be the signature win for State. Am I optimistic about the game? I can't say that I am. I do think we have a chance to win this ball game. I do think this could be a game, especially at our place, that we could rebound, and I think the crowd can make a big difference. And I know it's difficult to be here for 8 p.m. tip on a school night. I get it. But this is one. This is one of those ones, as Tech Nine would say, We got to find a way to make this thing happen. Now, you look at the schedule, and you kind of know what's behind there, and things kind of soften up, for the next couple of weeks for us. But we need a marquee win. Tennessee, a team that's obviously expected to make the tournament. And if we could take them down at our place, that makes a big difference. We need to pad the resume a little bit, and I believe this is a good opportunity to do it. Let's take a quick look at the Tennessee basketball program. It seemed like a couple of years ago we played them 2 or 3 times every year. This is our long meeting this year. We see them in the SEC tournament. But, it has been a pretty good year for Rick Barnes and his squad. They're kind of quietly flying under the SEC radar. Kentucky and Auburn and those teams are kind of out there outrunning. But this Tennessee team is very solid. 16-6 overall, 7-3 in the league. They've won 2 in a row. They have been outstanding there at Thompson-Boling Arena, though, 12-0. 3-4 in true road games, which is a respectable record. It's really difficult to get on the road in this league and find a way to go get a W. And then 1-2 on a neutral floor. So that makes them 4-6 away from Knoxville. So let's run down what it's looked like for them. Of course, they take care of UT Martin early on, big blowout game, blowout East Tennessee State. They lose to Villanova up in Uncasville, Connecticut, 71-53. They beat number 18 North Carolina the next day like a drum, 89-72. Then, of course, they blow out Tennessee Tech. They blow out Presbyterian. They go into Boulder, Colorado, and they win there 69-54. They lose in overtime at Texas Tech, and we know how good Texas Tech is. Now, I think Texas Tech is even better today than they were back then. But that was in a Jimmy V Classic, and Tennessee loses in overtime to Texas Tech, 57-52. Then they blow out UNC Greensboro. That's a 40-point game right there. South Carolina Upstate, another big blowout there, 40-plus, 44 points. Their game with Memphis was canceled. I don't know who was happiest about that, probably Memphis. They beat Arizona, number 6 Arizona at the time, in Thompson-Boling, 77-73, to close out the non-conference schedule. They get an SEC play. First thing they do is they go into Tuscaloosa and lose, 73-68. They beat Ole Miss 66-60. There were many people that thought Ole Miss was going to win that game, and they probably should have at times, but Tennessee a little bit too composed down the stretch. Traveled LSU, get beat by 12. They hammer South Carolina by 20 there in Knoxville. And then they go to Lexington and get absolutely drilled, 107-79. They go to Vandy, win there 68-60. They host LSU at their place, beat them 64-50. Interesting little split there. They host Florida, win 78-71. They go to Texas, and of course we talked about that. They had the 1-point loss there in the Big 12 SEC Challenge. They host A&M, beat those guys by 10, and they beat South Carolina 81-57. And now here we are. That's your up-to-date look at what's happened with this Tennessee team. And you look at it here and you say there's not really a bad loss on the resume. This is a quality team. This is a team also, too, that has been kind of Jekyll and Hyde on the road. And you've had some really lopsided losses to teams that were probably equal or better than you. That Kentucky game really kind of jumps out. Looks like that was a statement game for Calipari and crew. But everything else has been pretty competitive, unless it was Tennessee, the ones doing the beating. There hasn't been that big upset you look at and say, you know what, this is a team that had no business being able to play with Tennessee. And that's a Rick Barnes coach team. Other people, Texas got sick of him, but he's carved out a pretty good niche there in Knoxville and doing a pretty good job. Let's take a look at the inside the numbers here, look at the stats a little bit, kind of get prepared for what is to come. This is a team, too, pretty well balanced. There's some of these teams you look at and you say, you know what, if we can take this guy away and make somebody else beat us, we can win the game. This is a Tennessee team that, they've got a couple double-digit scores, but they're pretty balanced after that. There's not a huge drop-off. Santiago Vescovi. I'm really not really good with these basketball names, I'll be honest with you. he's the dude. 13.9 points per game, leads them, of course, with 306 points. Also, pretty good defensive guy as well. 41 steals, 71 assists to 36 turnovers, 3-point shooting. This is where you got to be careful with a guy like him. 66 of 170, that's right at 39%. He's also a pretty good free throw shooter. Pulls down 4.5 boards a game. Kennedy Chandler, kind of the quarterback of the offense, right? 106 assists to 56 turnovers. That's not a really good ratio there. That's still a ton of assists. He's averaging 13.2 points a game. Playing 30.2 minutes as well. Not a very prolific free throw shooter, but kind of efficient in his efforts, 32.5%. Just looking at this team, it's like you start running through these numbers and you say, okay, well, this guy leads in this category, and then another guy leads in this category, another guy leads in this category, and it's concerning. It'd be one thing if you had a superstar kind of doing it all, but there are a lot of guys on this team, obviously they're making a very positive contribution. You start looking at the rebounds. There's none of that really just jumps out and you say, okay, this is the guy that kind of leads the squad, because it appears that everybody's on the glass. The leading rebounder, and again, I'm going to butcher this name, it's Olivier Nakamoa. I apologize to your parents. I'm sure I got that wrong. But it's 124 rebounds for him. Josiah Jordan-James, 108. John Fulkerson, 96. Vescovi, 99. I mean, it's like you look at this and there's just not one guy dominating any statistical category. This is a very well-balanced team, similar to what we saw with Texas Tech. I don't know that Tennessee has the same length and girth that Texas Tech did, and you can see those two teams played, head-to-head and went into overtime. But when I look at these numbers, it concerns me just because of the fact there's not anybody you can really turn loose. You've got guys that can hurt you. You got guys at every spot on the floor that can score. We talked about Olivier earlier, 8.6 points a game. Josiah Jordan, 8.1. Zakai Ziegler, 8 points a game. Fulkerson, 7.5. You start running these things down and you realize that this is not a one-man team. This is a team. And that's one of the reasons they're headed to the NCAA tournament. Looking at some team numbers here. Shooting 43.7% as a team. That'll usually get it done. 41.4% for their opponents. Shooting right at 35% from the three-point line. Right at 70% as a team from free throw shooting. Pulling down 36.6 boards a game. That's a +3 for them. Handing out 374 assists and then allowing 253. It's a team basketball game. It is. Turnovers, they've only committed 280, but they have forced 383. So we're plus 103 in turnovers. That'll get it done too. 100 blocks for the team, allowed just 60. 219 steals, allowed 153. So you start looking through these numbers and you begin to realize that they're plus in everything. They shoot better than their opponents. They're better from three. They're better at the free throw line. They out-rebound them. They share the basketball better. They don't turn it over as much. It's a good basketball team. And because of that, if we beat them, it's going to be one of those games you look at and say, hey, that was the difference in us making the tournament or not. Because we can maybe piecemeal this thing together. You know what I'm saying? You start thinking, okay, well, we can beat all the teams we're expected to beat. And maybe we get in. But if we want to make sure we get in, we've got to win games like this. This is a golden opportunity for Mississippi State. Of course, Tennessee at 74.5 points a game. Again, I don't know that we win a game in the 70s. I think we've got to make them play our game and slow things down a little bit, because offensively, we're just not a team that's going to score in bunches. Every so often we'll get loose on somebody. By and large, we're kind of a half-court offense. We're going to dribble it around, and then if we can't get Iverson to the lane or find a quick, dish underneath, we're probably going to take an ill-advised three. But this is a team, too, that I think that is capable of hurting us with that shot selection. We've got to be able to take good shots. We've got to be able to make shots when they're there. But we start turning the basketball over to this team, a team that is 0.47 ahead. So you're basically 5 more turnovers, and they're a team that turns turnovers into points. That could be a difference in this ball game. Got to take care of the basketball. Absolutely have to take care of the basketball. You look at the conference numbers too. There's some people you say, well, when you get into conference play. No, there have been some of these guys that have really elevated their game in conference play. Vescovi, we talked about him, 15.7 points now. So he's up over his season average now that we're in conference play. Kennedy Chandler, 12.9. So these guys are doing what they're supposed to do, when the lights are shining the brightest. In conference play, the numbers still favor them in every single statistical category. It's pretty remarkable to look at. I guess when you look at field goal percentage in league play, Kentucky kind of skewed the numbers a little bit for shooting percentage because Kentucky absolutely lit them up. But you're talking 4.5 points a game differential between them and their opponents in league play. I can't say that I expect us to win the game. I hope we win the game. I think we're capable of winning the game. I think having a chance to play at home in front of your own crowd could be a big difference in this ball game. But I'm concerned about the ball game, and I think that I've echoed that pretty much in every comment that I've made about this. But this is, to me, Mississippi State's really last realistic chance to have a marquee win down the stretch. You say, well, Steve, Auburn's coming in. Yeah, you're right, and that's a terrible matchup for us because they're so good from the perimeter. And, yeah, that's a possibility. But what's happened is some of the teams ahead of us, have kind of lost a little bit of their luster. And, of course, after this one, you got 8 games remaining, 5 of those 8 on the road. So, yeah, should we beat Vanderbilt? Yep. Should we beat Missouri? Yep. Should we beat South Carolina? Yep. But it's so hard to go on the road and win in this league. You can't take any of that stuff for granted. So when I look at the schedule, and I'm sure you guys have been kind of counting games with me, you start thinking, this is the one that we've kind of been thinking, you know what? We got a shot here. 14-8 overall and 5-4 in the league. You start counting these games down, and I'll be honest with you, I think we're looking at probably 17, 18 wins, and I don't know if that's enough. You probably could get in with 18 if you get the right 18. I still believe we have the talent to get there, and I think in order for us to do that, we need to get a ball game in the win column tonight against the University of Tennessee. If we lose tonight, my confidence in our ability to make the tournament is going to wane a little bit. I'm going to be honest with you. And you say, well, Steve, you just said you don't expect us to win the game, and I don't. But my hope is maybe if we don't, we can pick up a win down the stretch here against LSU or Alabama on the road, and we haven't been able to do that yet. And I mentioned to you guys after the Texas Tech game, the next 5 games are going to be important, but we couldn't be staring 1-4 in the face. We couldn't go 1-4 in this stretch and realistically expect to make the tournament. So right now we're 1-1 in that decisive stretch with 3 games left. Got to find a way to get a couple wins in these next 3 ball games. Let's turn to the top 10 list brought to you by closewithblair.com. That's close, C-L-O-S-E, with Blair, B-L-A-I-R. Closewithblair.com. Blair Chandler, longtime friend of mine. Could be a longtime friend of yours. And it pays to have a friend in the business. Whenever you're doing something that perhaps is a little difficult, a little complicated, you need somebody sometimes to hold your hand and help you navigate through, the pitfalls of life. If you're looking to refinance your mortgage, now's a good time. You never know what's going to happen with interest rates in this economy. There's lots going on, with government regulations and things like that. You never know what the Federal Reserve is going to do. Take advantage of that perhaps right now. Refinance your home, pay off some debt, lower your overall monthly payments. Maybe put some money in your savings. Maybe put some money in your home. Maybe do some improvements. Maybe put in a pool, pay for a wedding. Who knows? All that stuff's important. And sometimes you think, how are we ever going to afford to do this? Well, maybe you go out and you get a small second mortgage and you take care of that and be able to pay that debt back at a lower rate. Or maybe you're looking to buy a home for the first time. Maybe you've been turned down before. Give Blair a chance to take care of you. This is a guy that's dealt with a lot of atypical borrowers over the years. A lot of non-conforming loans. And when those things happen, let's say you're a little bit unique. You need somebody with a unique approach. You need somebody that can get you taken care of. And that's Blair Chandler. Again, that's closewithblair.com. Let me give you Blair's cell number. It's 601-500-2344. That's 601-500-2344. And be sure and tell him you heard about him on the Boneyard, and he's going to pay for your appraisal. That's about a $500 to $600 value. Be sure and take advantage of that no matter what school you cheer for. You mentioned the Blair. You heard about it on the Boneyard, whether it be in text or email or whatever. He's going to pay for your appraisal. That guy wants your business. Be sure and give it to him. closewithblair.com. All right, today's top 10 list recommended by the one and only Stan the Man from Campus Book Mart. I was there, of course, last week signing some books for those guys. And Stan said, hey, Steve, I enjoy all the rock stuff. I do. I enjoy the eclectic taste that you have and the knowledge you have of obscure 80s hair bands. But for our older crowd, or perhaps our crowd that enjoys Motown, could you do the Temptations? And so we're going to do the top 10 Temptations songs today. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, I am confident I am not going to mention one of your favorites. Because, these guys have, 40 albums? It's ridiculous, the girth of their catalog. So I got 10. You may like a lot of songs that I'm unfamiliar with. But I know the hits. I know what I like. I know that these guys are ultra talented. One of the most iconic recording acts, regardless of genre, in American music. The choreography, the harmonies, incredible. So Stan the Man, this is for you and for your generation. And little did you guys know that your athletic director, John Cohen, also a big Motown guy. So hope you guys enjoy the list. So number 10, actually one of their last major hits. I don't know if you knew this, the Temptations were the last Motown act to win a Grammy. It was for this song, Cloud 9. As music changed, the Temptations changed a little bit, still kind of true, to who they were. But the music around them, the tracks, got a little more layered, I guess you could say, and this is one of them. Again, Cloud 9, number 10. Kind of a song about, growing up and not having a whole lot, but still being happy with life. Wherefore I am, I shall be content. Number 9, I Know I'm Losing You. Everybody's heard that song before. It may not be as recognized as some of the classics, but that's one. I remember being a kid and watching, remember K-Tel, right? The K-Tel would take these compilation albums and it'd be the Temptations' greatest hits, and they'd have them up there dancing and performing. And this is one of those songs, too, that was always kind of mentioned in those ads, and I think this is maybe in some ways kind of an underappreciated classic. Number 8, I Wish It Would Rain. This is a great, great, great emotional song. And I think that's one of the things that the Temptations were good at. Is it wasn't just the good time and stuff. It wasn't just the happy, upbeat, kind of snappy stuff. There's some blues elements in what they do. And I think it's incredible. I think this may be the best indicator of that. So I Wish It Would Rain. Very, 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 very emotional song. Number 7, Just My Imagination. Running Away With Me. I'm not going to sing it. I don't know that I could do it justice, but that's one that everybody knows too. And I think really when we get down to the top half of this list, everybody would probably be in agreement. These are the classic Temptations tracks. We may disagree on the order. But Just My Imagination, number 7. Number 6, and I love this one when I was a radio DJ years ago. When the Temptations would come up, sometimes I would skip to this song. The card says play this album, this track. Sometimes I would just skip it and go to this one. As Papa Was a Rolling Stone. I love that bass line in the beginning. It's infectious, man. And it's different. It's different than a lot of other things in the catalog. And again, I think that's the beauty in artists like the Temptations that have this long career, is they get a chance to kind of dip into the repertoire and do some things that are a little different. They just don't have their own lane. They just kind of expand their lane and do what they want to do. And Papa Was a Rolling Stone, of course, that's, wherever he laid his hat was his home. And when he died, all he left us was alone. That's incredible lyricism right there. Number 5, The Way You Do the Things You Do. We talk about snappy and upbeat. Here you go. This is one of those songs. It's so ingrained in American culture, it almost feels like a nursery rhyme. You know what I'm saying? It's like, and we all know it. And it's like you go through it and you hear it, and it sounds like one of those sing-song children's songs that just kind of lift you up a little bit. It's very uplifting. Number 4, I Can't Get Next to You. To me, this is one of those ones, like when I see those live performances, this is the one that always seems like brings out the best choreography. I Can't Get Next to You. It's a song of unrequited love. You know, I can't get next to you. I want to. I like you. You're beautiful. Think you're interesting, but I don't have a shot. We've all been there. Number 3, and again, this is one of those ones that, it's probably been featured in hundreds of movies, TV shows. It's Get Ready, because Here I Come. It's like another one of those songs from the very beginning. You know, those horns kick in, and it's like this is something different. And that's one of the things I love about the Temptations too, and I don't listen to them a lot. I'll admit that. When I was younger, I did. You know, my parents listened to them, and so. But the use of horns, like sometimes in some R&B, classic R&B, it's overused. I think they use it appropriately, the Temptations. Like it's not a huge part of every single song, but when they use it, it's very tastefully done. I think this is a very classic use of that. Number 2, We've All Been Here Too. Ain't Too Proud to Beg. I don't mean the TLC version, even though I love that one too. Ain't Too Proud to Beg. It's so great. It's so great. You know, it's like this gentleman caller or whatever. You know, I'm going to humble myself here because you're just so beautiful and so amazing. I'm so smitten with you. You know, I'll beg and plead if I have to. But number 1, and I think most people would agree this is number 1. You probably know where I'm going. It's My Girl. The harmonies on this are just beautiful. I mean, every step of the way, everything about the song. We talk about having some perfect songs in American music. This is one of them. This is one of those songs that everybody knows, everybody has an appreciation for, and in some respects probably is felt at some point in their life. It's My Girl. That's your number 1 Temptation song. So Stan, I hope I did the list justice. Hope you enjoy listening to the list. And we talk about, you know, where music is today. You know, the roots of R&B. You know, we talk about the Delta blues scene and that sort of stuff, but a lot of even that, you know, was kind of the precursor of what the Temptations and the Four Tops, Jackie Wilson, and people like that, you know, Smokey Robinson, you know, brought. And there are a lot of people that still try to kind of capture that Motown vibe and, you know, that late 60s and early 70s type doo-wop. I almost should call it that way. It's almost disrespectful to call it that. But the reality of it is all of the R&B music you hear today has roots in this. It all started here. And in many respects, it probably started for, like it did for a lot of us, is, you know, when it was Saturday morning and time to clean up the house, you know, Mama put on a record on a record player. You turn the TV off and everybody pitched in and cleaned up the house. And, you know, it brings back so many fond memories. And I know that Stan had mentioned, you know, hey, Steve, we got a lot of older guys that would probably love to hear your take on the Temptations. Well, I hope I did it justice. So there you go. And so on Friday, we'll get back to the rock. We'll have some rock. So today is Stan the Man Day. Stan's a big Temptations guy. Stan came to me and said, hey, Steve, what do you think? So Stan, here, you weren't expecting it, but here it is. Next segment of the show brought to you by Campus Bookmart and Stan the Man. How about that? That's a nice little segue. Stan the Man, Miss Kathy Brown, lovely, talented Susie, loved them to death. They're like family to me. Miss Pam Minyard works there now. Love her too. Everybody up there will love you too. You go by there because in their minds, you're family. Go by and see them, check them out. See the latest in Mississippi State maroon and white merch, whether it be something for your home, your office, your vehicle, your pet, your grandchild. If you need it, they have it. If not, they can get it. And maybe you can't make it to town. Maybe you live in, a foreign land, somewhere like Arkansas or something. And so you can visit them on the World Wide Web at campusbookmart.net and shop online. And they do a great job updating the online catalog. When I'm in there sometimes, like, oh, get us up on the website. Do this, do that. They're very good about keeping that thing accurate. And follow them on social media, too. There's a lot of new arrivals that appear there first. That's campusbookmart.net. And use promo code BSR, which stands for Beautiful Steve Robertson. and that'll get you free shipping on all orders over $50. Any order less than $50, absolutely incomplete. And listen, I know we've got some better weather today, but it ain't going to stay this way. It's going to be windy, going to be cool. These early baseball games, you need a hoodie. You'll be glad you have one. Campusbookmart.net, promo code BSR. All right, let's take a look at the women. It feels like it's been forever since they played. And that's what happens like when you're winning. It's like you want to keep playing because you're in the zone. The women have played pretty well here as of late. And need to continue to play well. I don't know if you saw yesterday, Charlie Crane, the the expert when it comes to women's basketball bracketology, has the Bulldogs as one of the last four in the dance. How about that? Did you ever see that coming with all the turmoil that's been this year? Now, we're not there yet. But the bottom line is we're right there firmly on the right side of the bubble. Need to get a couple more W's and we can stay there. Got the opportunity to do it for sure. It's exciting. The head coach has to resign for personal matters. Leading scorer leaves. We lose another player for an ACL tear for the year. And now here we are. Now, it's fun to get out here and dream. It's a difficult stretch down, for sure for Mississippi State. We start looking at what's left. And, we're going to have to earn it. There are some winnable games here, but there are a lot of toss-ups here that are really going to define the season. Got to win our share of those to make sure we stay in the tournament field. There's not a lot of games I look at and say, that's a sure loss, though. Maybe at Tennessee. Maybe that's the one you look at and say, that's probably one, maybe a little bit tough to go up there and win there. But you look at the rest of them and say, if we play up to our potential, got a chance to win. LSU here, going to be tough. Ole Miss here, going to be tough. But we'll see. We'll see how it shakes loose. But today let's talk about Florida. That'll be a 5:30 p.m. tip. That's Thursday evening. That'll be an SEC Network Plus game. Be sure and check that out. Of course, if you're in the area, come by and check us out. It's a 5:30 tip. If you live within the northern Mississippi area, you got a chance to come to the ball game and get home at a decent hour. I know some of you folks get up with the chickens. You can go to bed with them too. Come watch a ball game. So let's look at what the Lady Gators have done this year. There was a time we used to play them annually too. It seems like during the Vic Schaefer years we played them home and away every year, it seemed. But we'll get one shot out of them this year. They have not been very good in recent years. They are much better this year. Much better. 17-6 overall and 7-3 in the conference. So again, this is a game that's here that could be a resume-building opportunity for Mississippi State. And I'm going to be honest with you, I think we're going to win the game. I think we're going to win the game. Even though Florida has actually been a pretty good road team, 5-2 in true road games and 3-1 on a neutral floor, so it makes them 8-3, away from the O'Connell Center. I just feel like that now that we've had a chance to maybe rest up a little bit and kind of get fresh in our gym, I think we're going to win. All right, let's take a look at what Florida's done this year on the women's side. They lose their first game of the year in ridiculously surprising fashion. That Towson takes them down 87-70. And then, of course, they lose the next game in the preseason women's NIT, 85-52 to North Carolina State. They salvage a win over Wofford, 61-47. They get back on track, and they put together a nice little winning streak here to take down Grambling State, South Carolina Upstate, St. Louis, George Washington. They lose at George Mason, 75-71. They go to TCU in the Big 12 SEC Challenge, and they win. Pretty impressive win, too, 63-54. They take down Dayton in the O'Connell Center by 3, beat Florida State by 14, rout Murray State, and then we were supposed to play them to open the SEC schedule, if you remember, on December 30th. And there were some COVID issues. Game got to be postponed. So they open and lose the first two games of the SEC slate. And we were thinking, man, how great would it have been to play that one. They lose to Georgia, 73-69. They lose to Ole Miss in Gainesville, 74-56. And then we're all kind of thinking, yeah, it's the same old Florida. But they responded. Give them credit. They go to A&M, and they beat A&M 97-89. They take care of Auburn 68-63. They go into Tuscaloosa and beat Alabama 85-77. They blow out Kentucky at their place 77-52. They beat LSU in Florida 73-72, which is probably the biggest win of the year. They give South Carolina a decent game. They lose 62-50. They beat the Lady Vols 84-59. That's a pretty gaudy score considering the competition. Tennessee was ranked number 7 at the time. And then they beat Georgia 54-51. So they are 1-2 in a row against ranked opponents, and 4 of the last 5 against ranked opponents, with the one loss being South Carolina. They're playing their best basketball of the year. I still think we have a chance to win this ball game. And maybe it's just me being a bit of a homer. Maybe it is. Maybe I just want the dream to come true. This is a Florida team, though, that is playing pretty well. I think it's one of those things, too, where I think our ladies believe that they can compete. Belief is a difficult thing. You know, when somebody believes they can beat you, more times than not they do. If they truly believe in their heart, hey, we're better than them, we're going to find a way to do it. They find a way to get it done. Looking inside the numbers here, I'm looking forward to talking to college baseball. The next segment of the show is college baseball. I'm looking forward to that. All right, team stats. So Florida has a 5.3 scoring plus differential for them. They're averaging a nice 69 points per game. They're allowing 63.7. So 5.3 difference. So again, not a high-scoring team. You know, we're comfortable in the 60s. They're comfortable in the 60s. They're a team that's shooting it pretty well, too, 41%, allowing just 39%. So pretty even there in that respect. 3-point shooting, they will put it up. They've attempted 400 three-pointers, 400 three-point shots on the year, made 123, averaging just under 31%. And then they've allowed around that same percentage, but opponents are only shooting about 300 on the year. So, you know, Florida's out shooting their opponents by 100 three-point attempts per game on the season. Per game would be some kind of record. Pardon me. So they make 5.3 a game. They allow 4. So just enough to kind of keep you honest. Pretty good free throw shooting team at 73%. Looking at rebounding, it's basically, you know, an even deal here. I think they're up 1.2, 39.3 rebounds a game. They're allowing 38.1, and this is where we're going to have to do a good job, especially in the post. And that's where you really miss Danae Carter. You really, really, really miss her. Well, I hope for quick recovery for her. They share the basketball pretty well, 13.1 assists a game, allow 10.3. Looking at turnovers, this is where assist-to-turnover ratio is really kind of minuscule here. I mean, it's like you look at all this stuff, you look at these numbers, they're a team that turns it over a good bit, and then they force a good bit of turnovers. So Florida turning it over 16 and a half times a game and then forcing 17-8. So we're basically 1. So they're giving it away as much as they're taking it away. And that's where I think Maya Taylor can be a difference in this ball game. They've stolen it 215 times, allowed 190, a difference of 1. So this is a team, you look at that gaudy record and you think, man, this is a team that's probably dominating, and they really haven't. They're a really, really good team, though. And they've shown that in recent weeks. They're trending towards the tournament. They're trying to get there just like we are. And you know as well as I do, they're looking at this ball game and saying, hey, this is one we have to have. The names you should know: Kiara Smith, averaging 14.9 points per game. That's a big one.
Hear that? Is that America cheering or a sausage patty sizzling to perfection? It's time to cheer for Egg McMuffin and fresh cracked eggs at McDonald's. It's time to wake up to the aroma of freshly baked biscuits and treat yourself to a real honest-to-goodness morning meal. Breakfast, it's on at McDonald's. Now get any breakfast sandwich for just $2. Available only through the app. Mobile order and pay available at participating McDonald's. McD app download and registration required.
Briggs, averaging 12.5, but hasn't played much as of late. I don't know if she's still with the program. Jordan Merritt has started 13 games, averaging 10.8. Zippy Broughton, that's a nice name, Zippy. I think if I got another kid, I would name her Zippy. Or he Zippy. I kind of like that. Zippy. Wonder what it's short for. Wonder what it stands for. Zippy's a cool name. We need more Zippies in the world. I am really going to think about this. All right, so Zippy averaging 8.5 points a game. Nina Rickards, 7 points per game. And again, we talk about balance. They're getting scoring from foul spots on the floor. Alberta Remdail is the sixth lady, averaging 5.3 points. Has played in all 23 games, hasn't started any. But pretty efficient at the time she comes out, shooting 42.6%. And one of the more prolific three-point shooters on the team. 24 of 68. Her 68 attempts leads the team. This is a young lady coming off the bench, kind of as a three-point marksman or markswoman. However, I need to say that. But 24 of 68, only one other player, that's Jordan Merritt, has made more and shoots the three-pointer more prolifically. So when she comes in the ball game, when number 5 comes in, you can expect that she's going to be chunking it from the cheap seats, for sure. But again, this is a very talented team, and eager to see how we handle it. And I can't promise you I know what's going to happen in this ball game. And I just maybe I just want this to happen so bad. I'm just trying to speak it into existence. I think we're going to win the game. I think we're going to win the game. I think the fact that we've had some time to rest up and recruit a little bit has been good for us. Maybe we're a little bit rusty early on, but I think if we can be within shooting distance at the half, I think we got a really good chance to win this ball game. And again, I know how well they played us late. But if you go back and look, a lot of that stuff has been at the O'Connell Center. Kentucky has kind of fallen on hard times as of late. And then they've won 3 in a row. They played 3 of those difficult games in the O'Connell Center. The win at Georgia is impressive, 54-51. But that's the thing about women's basketball. We talk about parity. There's a big difference between the haves and the have-nots. But there's a whole lot of those teams that are kind of fall in between there. And there's a lot of parity in women's basketball in the SEC. And so this is a chance for us to kind of take full advantage of that, and we'll see. A lot of people are getting behind Doug Novak. I continue to hear that he is not considered a serious candidate for the job. And I don't think that's an indictment on him. I just think what you'd like to do, you hired him to come in and be an assistant coach to help on the offensive end, and then he's kind of thrown in this position, and he's made the best of it. He really has. But I don't think it was ever intended to be a long-term solution. I think it's you go get an established women's basketball coach that has recruiting relationships, and that's the thing. You can see, Doug's a great motivator. You could hire some people around him. Maybe you could. They're kind of putting this thing together as they go. They're doing the best they can, and it says a lot about Doug Novak. But I think you bring in somebody that already is an established women's coach, that already has recruiting relationships among the AAU programs, because what this team is going to need is an influx of talent. In order to get that, you've got to have relationships. And when you bring in a guy like Doug Novak from the men's side to coach your offense, he doesn't have those same level of relationships. And that's not an indictment on him. I just think this was kind of a short-term fix, and it's working out better than maybe we had hoped. I think a lot of people felt this was going to be a throwaway season for us. And then yet here we are now with a chance to make the tournament. But I think this could be a huge win. And then, of course, if we win this ball game, then the Doug Novak bandwagon is going to gain some more members. And so, again, I can't say that I would be totally opposed to it. I just, based on what I'm hearing, I think this is a one-and-done type situation for Doug. Now, we get hot and play our way into the tournament, make a little bit of a run. I mean, I think, hey, you owe it to yourself, and maybe you owe it to Doug to say, you know what, let's revisit this. But I think ideally what you'd like to do is to bring in somebody that is familiar with the women's game, that the women's game knows them as well. This is a person that has established recruiting relationships, because this is a very unforgiving league. As you guys know, once you get down, it's tough to get back up. So we've been kind of treading water for a while, and while this season has been a pleasant surprise in many respects, I think what's best for us long term is to have an established coach. And so we'll see how things progress. But I don't think that's going to be the case. I don't think Doug's going to get the job. All right, final segment of the show brought to you by Portico. Our good friend Brooks Bryan, former Diamond Dog Brooks Bryan. Brooks is a good dude, man. He is. If you've ever spent some time around Brooks, his his love and admiration for all things Mississippi State is infectious. I mean, you can't be around Brooks and not want to be a Diamond Dog. He is just one of those kind of people that loves Mississippi State. He's one of our great fans and also a guy that wore the uniform. So he has a unique perspective. He wants to make Starkville, Mississippi State, a better place. Part of a great group bringing this wonderful residential development to the greater Starkville area. It's Portico. Very easy to find. You turn off of 82 on a 12, like going towards campus, the very first right, Pat Station Road. They'll take you to Portico. Phase 1 completely sold out. Phase 2 now under development. You ought to ride out there and take a look. Maybe next time you come to campus, hey, take a few extra minutes, ride through there and take a look yourself. You say, you know what, I'd love to live here, and you would. If I was moving to Starkville now, that's where I would move. And you say, well, Steve, why not move there now? Well, it's a little difficult to do once you're settled, but those of you looking to make a move, you're going to not do better than Portico. You can get a 2-bedroom, 2-bath house, 3-bedroom, 3-bath house, 4-bedroom, 4-bath house. And here's the deal, because Phase 2 is just now beginning construction, you can pick out your lot, and you can have a say in the plans for that home. You can kind of get it the way you want it, kind of like Burger King. You get it your way. Give Brooks a call today for more information, 601-416-8075. Again, 601-416-8075. Make Portico your next move. Now, I allocated more time for this segment of the show because I love talking college baseball. You may have learned that about me. I love college baseball. I do. Probably love college baseball the most. I love college baseball more than a friend. I do. And maybe it's because we've had such great success in college baseball in my lifetime and really in our history. We are a baseball school. I know some people, Steve, you shouldn't say that. It's true. We are a baseball school. We've committed incredible amount of resources to college baseball. We have had one of the most dedicated fan bases in the country when it comes to college baseball. And we do baseball right here at Mississippi State. And I wrote about that in the book, too. We do baseball right. We have a respect for the game. We respect our opponents, too. That's the thing, too, that one of the things that I love about our fan base is, football, sometimes things can be a little petty and argumentative. It's like when we see that an opponent and another team in our conference or a college baseball program that we respect, they've lost a player. When you look in the mentions, when like they announce so-and-so is done for the year, you'll see a ton of Mississippi State people offering their well wishes for a quick recovery for that player. We saw it even last year with Ole Miss. Gunnar Hoglund that pitched for Ole Miss, that guy's really, really good. He came in here, we beat him, and we're like, hey, we beat those guys at their strength. Gunnar was still pitching pretty well when we beat him, and next thing you know, he's on the shelf. But even though it was Ole Miss, our people were like, man, you hate to see that happen. And you do. I mean, not that you ever wish success for your rival, but you don't ever want to see anybody get injured, especially somebody ultra-talented with a pro baseball future ahead of them. You hate to think that perhaps that they've had an injury that will impact them and that it lasts. The results of that are long-lasting. And of course, it worked out. He ended up being a first-rounder anyway. But I respect the fact that our fans respect the game and respect our opponents. And I've got a lot of respect for Mike Bianco and that Ole Miss baseball program. I think the football program is absolutely rotten. I mean, I think it's rotten to the core. I think the culture surrounding the Ole Miss football program has always been rotten and always will be. But I respect that Ole Miss baseball program. I do. I respect Mike Bianco. I think when Dan McDonnell was there, Dan McDonnell changed college baseball in the state of Mississippi. And we had to react to that. Bianco hired him. It was a tremendous hire. And you look at what Dan's done at Louisville. He took basically and also ran program, has made them a regular contender. They didn't make the tournament last year. They will this year. They will this year. Dan's an incredible recruiter. And I had a chance to visit with him some in Omaha. And I'm just so impressed with the guy. I mean, really, really impressed. And you can see why John Cohen targeted him. And you may know this. Dan McDonnell's one of the people that really pushed for Chris Lemonis. Those guys are really, really close. And so Dan McDonnell wore a maroon shirt to Omaha. Wouldn't wear the M over S. And I don't blame him because everybody would take that picture, of course, and it would circulate and hurt him on the recruiting trails. But because of his love and respect for Chris Lemonis, he wore a maroon shirt. if I remember correctly, I think his wife may have had a Mississippi State shirt on. Maybe. I don't know if I remember that correctly. But either way, they're very, very close. And Dan also confirmed what Lamonis has always said. They'll never schedule each other as a non-conference opponent. If we ever play each other, it's going to be in the postseason because of their love and respect for each other, but also, too, they don't want to hurt each other, and that's really cool. So there is just something different about college baseball. And I think maybe it's the fact that so many of us played baseball in our lifetimes. And maybe we didn't play travel team baseball, maybe we didn't play high school baseball, but we all developed a love for the game. And I love college baseball, and I love the fact that we're one of the best teams in the country, but also, too, we play in the best conference in the country, and we follow these other teams. And so today, we're going to do our first segment in a two-part series previewing the SEC season. Today, we're going to look at the SEC East. On Friday, we'll look at the SEC West. And, of course, this is brought to you by our good friends at Portico. So, the number 7 team, to me, in the East is easily going to be Missouri. You can say, well, Steve, Missouri beat us. Yes, they did. They absolutely did beat us last year. They actually had some dudes on that team. They just kind of struggled to find some pitching. But when they came into Duty Noble Field, they were swinging it. We didn't pitch it exceptionally well. And here's the deal with that, too. Even some of our players, and you'll read about this in Dogpile, we took it for granted. We absolutely just thought, hey, all we got to do, we got a chance to win the SEC. If we just show up, win this series, we're going to win the SEC. And we certainly could have. And what do? We lose the series. We should have swept those guys. We didn't. But looking back at last year, this Missouri team, obviously this is, a series that we look back, and I'll be honest with you, it was one of the more difficult chapters to write in Dogpile just because it just didn't make any sense. But that's the beauty of college baseball, right? The absolute beauty of college baseball is the fact that on any given day, anybody can win. Steve Beazer is the head coach there, and Steve needs to win this year. And they're not going to. This will be his 5th year at Missouri, maybe his 6th. But, this is a guy from SEMO. We saw those guys. They came in here and played in a regional several years ago when he was with SEMO, and they were an outstanding team then. An outstanding team. I guess he took over in 2017. So you can kind of do the math from there. But they really hadn't done great. 17, they've kind of regressed each year. 36 and 23, 34 and 22, 34 and 22, then 11 and 5 in the 2020 year. And then last year, in the 2021 year, 15 and 36. And 2 of those 15 came against us. Oh, it makes me sick to my stomach. 8 and 22 in the conference, and again, 2 of those came against us. Pretty ridiculous. But, here's the deal. They've got some pieces there. They've got some guys that have a little bit of buzz, I guess, in the draft circles. You look at this 2022 deal. They don't look like a really veteran team. They kind of were last year in some spots. This is a young team. And one of the things they did when they got there is they went out and, tried to, hit the JUCO ranks pretty hard to win right away. It didn't work out. One of the guys that you guys may be familiar with is a guy that is expected to be drafted. He's actually a senior this year. He's out of Natchez, Mississippi. It's Josh Day, shortstop Josh Day. And this guy is legit. 6'2", 200 pounds. He's from Adams County Christian School there in Natchez, and by way of Copiah Lincoln. And going to be one of the better shortstops in the league this year, certainly in the East. And the East is loaded with middle infielders. But he's a guy that will probably be a really good team on a really good player on a really bad team. And I don't know that there's enough people around him, to maybe protect him. But this is a guy, too, that, hey, if Josh Day played somewhere else, he'd probably be a name that you're more familiar with. Last year, this is a guy that played in 44 games and started 43 of them at shortstop. He hit .306 early in the year, had a broken bone in his hand. We're all familiar with that, too. That happens. And then, kind of hung in there and played through that pain once he got back. Guy with a good eye at the plate, led the team in walks. But he's a dude. Don't let the fact that he plays at Missouri diminish your opinion of this guy. This guy can play. And there's a right-handed pitcher there that's got a little draft buzz too, Austin Marazis, I believe is how you pronounce that. This is another guy too that don't know what kind of run support he's going to have around him. Austin is 6'8", 230-pounder. He is a transfer from Charlotte. This is a guy too that there's a lot of talk about him possibly being one of the top 50 to 60 players in the Southeastern Conference. Of course, he transfers in, from Charlotte, so we'll see how things progress there. But that's again another junior college product from San Jacinto College, goes to Charlotte and beat Tennessee last year when he was at Charlotte. So he's a new addition there to the program there at Missouri. Will likely be, their main guy on the weekend. But that said, this is a Missouri team that is just not very good. They're not. They bet on junior colleges. It didn't rank. It didn't work out. They got a ton of transfers on this team. I mean, just kind of looking through this here, too. They got guys from Middle Tennessee. They got Charlotte, of course, Coastal Carolina, San Diego, Boise State, Missouri Southern, Florida State. Nander DeSatis is there. It's an infielder by way of Panama City, Panama. It's another guy, too, that will join that program looking to kind of shore some things up there. Started 131 games for Florida State. And now he's at Mizzou. So they're trying to find the quick fix again. I just don't think it's going to work out. I do think they'll be better than they were last year. I think they're still the worst team in the East. I think once we get into the conference play, they're going to kind of be exposed. But you go back and look at this 2021 year. I mean, it was already a disaster before they got into conference play. They lost some midweek games that just, kind of made you scratch your head. I mean, they began the year losing 3 out of 4 to Grand Canyon. That's how you begin your season, losing 3 out of 4 out in Phoenix, Arizona to Grand Canyon. Then they split a series with Omaha. I'm not going to run through the whole schedule, but it's like it took them forever to kind of figure some things out. Then they had a 4-game losing streak to Dallas Baptist, Oklahoma, and Arizona. So they'd scheduled pretty well. They just didn't win any games. They get an SEC play. They win for the first series at Lexington, Kentucky. And let me just tell you this, that's not going to happen this year. I believe Kentucky's going to take a step forward. Which brings me to number 6. A lot of people are picking Kentucky 6th. I'm not. I'm picking South Carolina 6th. You can say, well, Steve, they made the tournament last year. They did, and they also had a lot of age on that team last year. This is a team, too. This is a program, too, that a lot of the fans up there are starting to get a little impatient. It's a proud program. They love college baseball there, and I'd like to say they love it as much as we do. I don't know that that's the case, but they're very proud of what they've been able to accomplish. And Ray Tanner, one of the most respected names in college baseball history, wins back-to-back national championships up there. And I'll be honest with you, I rooted for those guys, not just because of my respect for Ray Tanner, just because I believe it's best for the game. When we have new champions in college baseball, I think it adds some real intrigue. I mean, you look at football, it's like you never get a new champion. It's the same teams every single year. Well, college baseball is completely different. So when South Carolina, put some things together, they were pretty good. And it gave us some hope like, hey, well, if South Carolina can do it, we can do it. Now we've done it. Hey, maybe we can go repeat. Well, they did it. Okay, so last year, South Carolina, 34-23 and 16-14 in the league. Andrew Eister, that guy, every time we play him, he just seems to elevate his game. That guy was absolutely legit. Of course, Wes Clark had the big home run on Sunday. One of their top returners is a guy that I really like, Braylon Wimber. Get to know that name if you don't already, Braylon Wimber. And they've got a couple pitchers, too, that have a chance to be really good. You look at what they had last year. You had Tommy Farr and Brandon Jordan. And, Brett Carey was ridiculous for them out of the bullpen. He was a difference in the Sunday game. We still should have won the game. But, we were about to run away with those guys, and they bring Brett Carey in. Because we blew them out in Game 2, they were able to kind of set their bullpen for Game 3. And Carey was outstanding. A name to be familiar with is Julian Bosnick, number 18 for them, left-handed pitcher Julian Bosnick. A lot of people think he's the guy that's ready to make the big jump. He's the guy that's ready to be the dude there. So, we'll see how things go with him. But they've got some guys they have some pieces. But I think when you look at what really produced for them last year, those guys aren't back. Those are the things you look at. You begin to think, okay, what do they return from an offensive standpoint? How do you kind of piece together, this lineup? And I think that's going to be very difficult for them. Braylon Wimber, what's crazy too, this is a guy at Yukon, Oklahoma, right out of high school, 6'4", 200-pounder. This guy can really pick it and stick it. I really like his game. Was just a sophomore for them last year, so he'll be draft eligible and probably a guy that'll be a solid pick. I think he gets picked high enough to come out. But hit 271 last year, 15 doubles, a triple, 11 home runs. He will be the centerpiece of that offense in many respects. I think they will kind of go as he goes. But, we'll see how things go with those guys. I just don't think there's just enough in this lineup that really scares you. Last year they had some guys that were really great, really, really great mistake hitters. And then Eister and those guys are gone. But, we'll see how it goes. Now, a new addition to the team, a guy that's getting some buzz, is right-handed pitcher junior James Hicks, transferred in from Crowder College. He's from Conway, Arkansas. Guys, that's where Central Arkansas is, and that's a pretty good baseball program there too. But he goes to Crowder College, which is JUCO there in Neosho, Missouri. They're expecting him to come in and be a guy that can kind of make some things happen for him. So he'll be a guy that'll probably be a factor on the weekend, a 6'2", 190-pound right-handed pitcher. Again, a guy that's got some draft buzz. I just think there's just so many questions with South Carolina this year, and it's going to take a while to kind of figure the rotation out. And if anybody can ill afford to have an injury, it's a team like that. All right, so let's move up a little bit. Let's talk Kentucky. I have them as number 5, and I may be the only person in the college baseball media that has them 5th. I think a lot of people are going to pick them behind South Carolina. I'm a Nick Mingione fan. Nick is a competitor, and I think in many respects teams take on, the persona of their coach. I think Nick will do a good job this year. I think Nick probably feels it a little bit, that, hey, we got to get it done. He's in season 6 there. People forget too, Nick was a guy that had a really good run there at the beginning. And then they've had some injuries and some guys hadn't panned out. But, the reality of it is Nick hadn't forgotten the game of baseball. He is a guy that's great with the short game. They end the year 29-23 and 12-18 in the conference. And you remember they came to Starkville, they were riding high. They were really excited. They'd won, they'd swept Auburn. A lot of people thought, hey, here they go. Now they're rolling because Auburn had some pieces back, and they were kind of built to win last year, and Kentucky wins all 3 games. And the next thing you know, they come to Starkville, and we sweep those guys. They beat Louisville and lose 2 out of 3 to LSU. Then they lose a series to Georgia. That's what Nick can ill afford to do. Is you can't start losing those series early in the year and kind of get behind the game because it's so unforgiving in this division, in this conference. Then they win 2 out of 3 against Alabama and absolutely destroyed those guys in Game 3, 11-0 in a doubleheader. They were competitive for a while against Tennessee. They win 1, and sometimes we just kind of needed Kentucky to pick off somebody for us. They did. I think that the kind of the season-defining series for them where they get swept at home by South Carolina, it was a really loud series for them. But then late in the year they pick off one, from Vandy. So, I still feel like there are some pieces on this team, and I think it all starts with Cole Stoop. I guess it's Stupp or Stuck. I can't remember how to pronounce the kid's name. But anyway, that guy came in here and pitched really well against us last year, and he's a guy, too, that gets a ton of ground balls. He gets good sink, can throw his breaking ball for a strike, can change speeds on you a little bit. He is a guy that I think will be the centerpiece of that rotation. And, Nick's a guy sometimes, too, that doesn't throw his best guy on Friday. There was a time he would throw his ace on Sunday to make sure you can get a win somewhere. Cole Stupp last year, 4-5 on the year, 13 starts, 4.76 ERA. Didn't get a ton of run support, as you guys know, but he led them in innings pitched last year, 75 2/3. So he is a veteran guy to say the least. 71 Ks against 15 walks. The 71 Ks is a team high last year. But the main thing with him is just he gets you to beat the ball on the ground. And they'll have some guys. They'll be able to kind of piece this thing together a little bit and make the whole thing competitive. Last year, Ryan Hagenow was supposed to be their guy, and just didn't work out maybe the way they had expected. But I think that Cole will be a guy. We're going to look back at season's end, and it's going to be kind of like the deal with Josh Day. It's like, if this guy played on any other team, he may be in contention for all SEC. Now, the guy on Kentucky's defense and offense that I think you got to watch out for is shortstop Ryan Ritter. This is another guy with a lot of draft buzz around him. Hit 275 last year. Started all 52 games for them. Just 20 RBIs, but this is a guy, too, that he is going to be a table setter in many respects, but defensively, he is a guy to get things done. And 8 of 8 in stolen bases last year, very efficient in what he does. And that's Nick. Nick wants to challenge you with the running game as best he can. And there was a time there last year that Kentucky was stealing bases at a ridiculous ratio. Looking at some of these guys that are kind of bouncing around a little bit here, they're going to return some guys that are veterans that can run the bases. But, when I look at some of these teams, like you think about, okay, do you have a defined frontline starter on the weekends? Well, I think Kentucky does, with Cole. And so we'll see how things go with them. I think they could sneak into the tournament. Now, a lot of it's going to depend on the non-conference. They can't get out there and afford to get shelled in a non-conference and drop some games they're not supposed to. But I think Nick and this group are going to get better. And maybe I'm being a homer here because I want Nick to get better. And I want Nick and him to have a good season. But I believe that's going to be the case. And they're going to open up next weekend at Jacksonville State. But a pretty manageable non-conference schedule. I do like the fact that they have TCU coming to Lexington this year. And I do think TCU probably takes a step back, even with Kirk calling the plays now for those guys. Now that Slosh has moved on. TCU, though, has recruited well over the years. So if Kentucky can get that series win, that is going to be huge for them down the stretch. And they open up at Arkansas. So you know how much fun that is. But looking at the schedule here real quick, though, we talk about, sure tournament teams. They got Georgia coming to Lexington. They got Ole Miss coming to Lexington. They do go to Missouri, and I think they'll get that. I think they'll get that. They have Vanderbilt coming to Lexington. They have Tennessee coming to Lexington. Auburn comes to Lexington. So you've got a lot of great opportunities to play in your venue against quality teams to prove your tournament worthiness. All right, I got Tennessee fourth. And I could make the case for Tennessee to be third because I'm a big Tony Vitello fan. Tony is an alpha all the way. There is no doubt about it. And he brings some real toughness from this team. You remember last year he and Dave Van Horn kind of had some words at the end of the series. It was a huge weekend. Arkansas wins that series. But I think Tony, even in defeat, kind of showed his team and that fan base, say, we're gonna fight and we're gonna make people respect us. They did lose a lot from last year. There's no question about that. They did. They lost some guys on the weekend for sure. But I think they've recruited it at a good enough rate. They're going to be able to replace many of those guys and remain a very competitive team. I do think they're a tournament team, possibly a host team this year. They're going to have to win some head-to-head matchups against, Georgia, Vandy, Florida, people like that to kind of legitimize themselves as a host team. I do think the fact that they're committing more to baseball in Knoxville is a good thing. Tennessee is a baseball-crazy state, so getting, some resources behind that. I'll tell you guys, if you haven't traveled, the traditional SEC schools, Tennessee has the most antiquated stadium in the conference, and it's not close. It's not. And I'm not saying that to be negative about Tennessee or about Tony Vitello in any way whatsoever, but they let that place get old and it's kind of neglected. It looks good on TV because they fixed everything in the sight lines of the camera, but the grandstand and the fan experience is pretty diminished. I mean, it really is. But I think, now that they've got Tony signed to an extension and they've made some promises for facility upgrades, they'll do that. they had a great team last year, no doubt about it, and got some dudes to kind of watch. The guy that I really like on this team is Drew Gilbert. They've got some people around him, but Drew Gilbert is a guy that's an outfielder that can really run. He's actually from Stillwater, Minnesota. 5'9", 182 pounds, kind of a utility guy. Hit 274 last year, had 74 hits, which is among the team leaders, 12 doubles, 10 home runs. They had 5 guys that hit double-digit home runs last year, and you've got a 5'9" guy out there swinging it the way that he does. And so this is another guy, too, that has the tools, can bunt a little bit, can run the bases, 10 of 11 in stolen bases. Pretty good eye. Struck out just 40 times on the year, which was among the best among the regulars. But that's a guy, when we start talking about filling out, sleepers for a potential all-SEC type team, I think he has that kind of ability. And, of course, the outfield's awfully crowded in this conference, but he is a guy that I think is ready to take a jump. We talk about pitching, and they did lose a lot last year. They really did. I think when you look around, you figure, okay, well, who do they build a staff around? Well, there's no doubt it's going to be Tidwell. This guy's this is a guy that's got all sorts of major league potential. Put up 10 wins last year as a freshman out of Loretto, Tennessee. 6'4", 200-pounder. Absolute major league guy. There's no doubt about it. This is a guy that's going to get some things done. And when we played those guys, we played Chad Dallas, who had 11 wins, but he's moved on, so you got to find a replace him. But Blade Tidwell is a guy that I think middle of the year will be in those conversations about the true frontline starters within this league. And I don't know how old this guy is, but he will be on a major league roster within the next few years. I don't know if he's draft eligible this year or not. I don't know what his age is, but this is just his second year in the league. But that's the guy they'll kind of build their staff around. And, again, as long as Tony is there, they're going to be competitive. You just might as well expect it. Okay, number 3 for me in the East is Georgia. Scott Strickland always has pitchers. And I think this year they're going to have some offense to go around it. People forget, they embarrassed Vanderbilt last year. They win that series, and they really knocked Kumar Rocker around a little bit. And I think that was the first time that people were like, okay, well, Vandy's not what we thought they were. I said that from the beginning last year. I thought Vandy was somewhat vulnerable. And then what do? They advance to the College World Series final and then lose to Mississippi State. So they were the last team to lose. But they were not the imposing dark force that they have been. Sometimes you're like the evil empire up there, with 10,000 scholarships to offer players to come play. But they just weren't as good. And even though they weren't as good, they still played for a national championship. They were one away from winning a national championship, which in many respects is very much a credit to Tim Corbin. But this Georgia team, I think, is a team that is kind of a dark horse in the East. If some of the offense comes around, with quality of pitching they're going to have, they're going to beat some teams that people aren't expecting. We go to Athens this year, and I'm eager to go. I'm excited to get over there. I've never covered baseball at Athens. I'm ready to get there. They don't have a very challenging non-conference schedule. They do have a series with Georgia Tech. That's the thing where they play on a neutral site. They'll play one game in Atlanta. They'll play one game in Athens and play the third game on a neutral site. That's an important one. And I'll be honest with you, I'm not sold on Georgia Tech. A lot of people are. I think Georgia will take that series. If everybody's healthy, I think they've got an opportunity to take that series. But, it's a big one. It's a big one opening up, man. We will go in there March the 18th through the 20th, and we're going to see some guys that can really pitch it. They've already set the times for those games. If you're thinking of going, Friday night is a 7 p.m. first pitch, and then we'll be 2 and 12 the rest of the weekend. So a Friday night game in Athens there at Foley Field. That'll be exciting. But, looking at their schedule, again, this Georgia team gets Florida at their place. That's big. They do have to go to South Carolina, but I'm not really sold on those guys, so I think you can go over there and get a win there. You get Texas A&M at your place. That's even though that Slosh is there now, I think they're probably a year or two away. You go to Alabama, who I think will be improved this year, but there's a possibility you can go in there and win that one. You got to go down to LSU and play in that softball stadium, so you never know how that's going to go no matter how much pitching you have. Then they get Vanderbilt at their place. and you got to go to Tennessee. But you get Mizzou at your place. But yeah, my point being is that the SEC East, in many respects, is going to run through Athens, Georgia. They're going to have a chance to play some of the contenders in the top half of the league at their place, where they pitch it exceptionally well. And that's kind of when you look at the front line numbers for this team, you look at what they're going to have pitching wise. Those are the things that kind of excite me. Is like, if Georgia can just be good on offense, they are without a doubt a tournament team and potentially a host team. I think that's how it's going to shake loose. I think their pitching will get them in. Offense will have to get them to Omaha. And I don't know that I'm ready to say that they're a potential Omaha team, but I do think they're a team that will host a regional, and how the super regional pairing kind of matches up will determine their season in some respects. A guy you got to watch, Jonathan Cannon, big right-handed pitcher, 6'6", 216-pounder, sophomore from Alpharetta, Georgia. This guy can really throw it. Will be a guy, too, that I think that as long as Scott Strickland's there, we talk about how Tony's teams in Tennessee are always going to have an edge. As long as Scott Strickland's at Georgia, they're always going to have pitching. This will be another Scott Strickland success story. This is a guy that went 4-2 last year, had a 3.98 ERA, made 12 starts for him. But that'll be kind of the centerpiece of the weekend in many respects. They also have, some other pieces that you look at and you begin to think on the offensive side, if a couple of guys take a jump or two, they've got a chance to take a step forward offensively. It's always been the book on Georgia. It's like they had to beat you in pitchers' duels. If you could go out there and score 5 runs, you got a good chance of winning the ball game. But the guy I think offensively and defensively you've got to watch for them is a pretty exciting young catcher by the name of Fernando Gonzalez. He's a 5'10 sophomore out of Marietta, Georgia. Went to North Cobb Christian High School, and you know how baseball crazy that area is. Started 36 games as a freshman. And when you've got a guy that specializes in pitching like Scott Strickland, he's not just going to set anybody out there to receive his pitcher. So it says a lot about their evaluation of him as a receiver. And also, looking at the bio here, set a school record for catchers with a 1,000 fielding percentage and 330 chances. Threw out 45% of base stealers and only had 7 pass balls on the year, which is actually pretty good considering he's a freshman. And until you've seen an SEC level breaking ball in the dirt, you don't know what you're dealing with. But this is a dude that I think that we're going to see take a big jump this year. And again, if Scott Strickland likes a freshman as a catcher, that says an awful lot about him. Number 2, and again, I don't get the Vandy love. That's why I don't have them pick to win the East. Vandy, I'm picking them second. They lost a ton last year. They're expecting Christian Little and Reilly to kind of be the centerpiece of that rotation. I just don't see it. I think there's going to be a lot of inconsistency this year with Vanderbilt. I know they returned some interesting pieces on the offensive side. Defensively, they were a mess last year. You don't lose Kumar Rocker and Jack Leiter and get better, even if you're Vanderbilt. Even if you're giving everybody 100% funded scholarships, you're not going to get better losing those guys. And I know everybody's picking them top 5, and I'll be honest with you, I think a lot of people are doing that based on reputation and then respect for Tim Corbin and thinking, hey, well, they played an AFL championship last year and they're Vandy, they'll be back. I think they're a team that contends for a top 8 national seed. I just don't think I think that's probably somewhat tenuous too, though. You know what I'm saying? Like last year, it was like, well, they'd be the number 1 team in the country, and they still made it, even though they weren't even the best team in the East last year. I don't think they're the best team in the East this year. Tennessee won the East last year, in case you forgot, right? But when I think about this Vandy team, I think about Bradfield, who was, in my mind, one of the best center fielders to play in this league in probably a decade or so. I think he is not the offensive piece that maybe Jake Mangum was, but this is a guy that's a prolific base stealer and can play gap to gap. So he is going to help these young pitchers a lot. The fact that he's out there playing in the middle of the field and can roam the outfield the way that he does, anything back up the middle, Bradfield's got a chance to go get. The rest of it is still kind of interesting. It's really, really interesting. Carter Young is a guy that I like a lot. I really do. Now, he really struggled at Omaha, and he does have a hole in his swing. He does. But you know as well as I do, they've worked on that in the offseason. We'll see a little more polished product for him, and defensively made some mistakes in Omaha, especially against us. But Carter Young's going to have to be a dude in this lineup. Now, what are they going to do with Dominic Keegan? You know, this is a guy that's kind of a utility guy. There was some talk that he was going to start at catcher this year. You may not have known this, but both catchers have moved on. Both catchers. Maxwell Romero Jr., of course, was the guy that hit the home run off Preston Johnson that we waved goodbye to. And then C.J. Rodriguez, who might have been my favorite catcher in the league last year, not named Logan Tanner. C.J. is a dude, and I think he'll play pro baseball for a long time. C.J. drafted and signed, and then Romero went too. I think he was actually a late pick. I've forgotten my numbers on this. But Dominic Keegan may catch some this year. He played some at first base. There's talk about Stephen Jones. You know, Stephen Jones should probably have played college basketball big as he is. That he will be the starter at first base, and then Keegan may catch some. But they'll figure some things out. They've even mentioned Jack Bulger as a guy that might catch for him. And in this league, when you've got to kind of play catcher by committee, that's just not good. And then you think about the fact that you've got young pitchers that you're trying to replace, 2 first-round picks with. I just think that's a recipe for some inconsistency. Now, the one guy that scares me to death for them is Nick Maldonado. This guy throws about 3 variations of the slider, and we haven't been able to hit any of it. It doesn't matter when we played him, whether it be here or there, Omaha, wherever. Whenever Maldonado's come in against us, he's really carved us up. He is a very, very, very good pitcher. 2.31 with the ERA last year, 1-2, 28 appearances, had 9 saves on the year, but just ridiculous 59-7 strikeout to walk ratio. I mean, just an absolute ridiculous guy. Now, we mentioned Christian Little and those guys. Christian Little has electric stuff. He's got to get a little bit tougher mentally. He was 3-2 last year with a 5.48 ERA. Didn't look good against Stanford. Didn't look good against Mississippi State. Now, granted, he's a young guy. Let's be fair to him. But he's going to be draft eligible this year. He's one of those guys, too, you look at and begin to think, okay, he hadn't had a ton of experience. It needs to happen this year. Patrick Reilly is a guy that we faced twice, and he never impressed me. 4-2 on the year with a 4.98 ERA. Had 7 starts last year. So when you start looking at what they have and what they're bringing back, you start wondering where's it going to come from. What's going to have to come from the recruiting trail? And they've got some dudes coming in for sure. But I just look at the pitching aspect of this, and I know Vandy's usually pretty good pitching-wise. They always have some guys that are pretty scary, that have those major league bodies, and guys that have got big league stuff. But you lose Leiter and Rocker, which ironically both had 179 strikeouts apiece, according to the Vandy website. It's crazy to think about that. They had to pitch 598 innings last year as a staff. Leiter and Rocker, 232 combined of those innings. You're losing all of that. And so you return Thomas Schultz, who had 9 starts last year, largely ineffective. He'll be a guy that could be a factor. And, of course, Little and Reilly. But it's like I look at this rotation, and you don't have a lot of guys coming back that have effective SEC innings under their belt. Those are the things that you look at and you say, okay, well, they got to figure some things out. Little proved to be pretty ineffective last year. And he'll be better this year. They'll still be Vandy. I just don't think they're nearly as good as people are suggesting they're going to be. I think this is a team that has some questions defensively because you're going to have to move some guys around. And when you lose catchers in this league, it's just it's difficult to replace them. But Isaiah Thomas, of course, is transferred. Jason Gonzalez has exhausted his eligibility, and the CJ is gone. So you return some pieces, but you lose some important pieces. And I think Vandy is just a really good team this year. I don't think they're a great team. I know early in the year they'll be ranked high. I just don't think they're a team that's going to be nearly as good as people expect them to be. Call me a hater if you want to. I just don't see it. So, of course, I have Florida winning the East. I like Florida. I think Kevin O'Sullivan is one of the better pitching coaches in the country. I think they evaluate guys, and they're in a very big, pitching crazy part of the country. And when you look at what they've got coming back from a pitching standpoint and offensively, this is a team that is primed to make a run for an AFL championship. I don't think there's any question about it. You say, well, Steve, they barely made the tournament last year. That's true, but they returned so many pieces. from a year ago, and the fact that they've got so much pitching to go with it, I think they're a team that's going to make it really interesting. I like the makeup of this team. I know Maldonado strikes out a ton, but he'll hit it a country mile if you give him a chance. They had some guys that had a chance to go pro that elected to come back. I think that's a huge part of things too. I mean, Jacob Young is a guy that's absolutely ridiculous. It's just so incredible that Florida has won an national championship when you consider their recruiting footprint. I think the story of the Florida team is not going to be offense, though. I think it's going to be pitching. I think you look at Hunter Barco, a guy they're really excited about, and they should be. From the Bowl School, Jacksonville, Florida, left-handed pitcher, 10-3 last year, which led the team. He's back, 16 starts, had one complete game last year, 4.01 ERA, which is not tremendous, but the guy's a competitor, and he'll get better. That guy's going to be absolutely legit. Of course, Tommy Mace is gone, and that's big to say the least. But getting that guy out of there, which is really good. But I think it's one of those things when you begin to think, all right, well, who steps up? Well, I think Brandon Sproke could be one of those guys too. He had a couple starts last year. The numbers weren't especially flashy, but he was a young freshman out of Pace, Florida. A lot of people like him, major league body, 6'3", 210. Guy that can consistently throw 3 pitches for a strike. I look for him to take a jump for them this year. There was only so many innings to go around last year, but they're going to pitch it well. That's just kind of what Florida's built upon is pitching the baseball. So they're going to have the pitching, I think, whereas some other teams in this league aren't. And that's one of the things that we'll talk about when we get into the Friday SEC West preview. As offensive as this league is expected to be this year, it's not the year to have suspect pitching. The teams that can have good pitching are going to have a huge advantage over the teams that don't. And you said, well, Steve, that kind of goes without saying. No, I don't even think you can be average at pitching this year. I think if you can be really good at pitching, you've got a chance. Because when you look up and down, you say, well, everybody recruits well. I don't think this is the year of the Friday night starter in the SEC. I think there are going to be some teams out there that kind of shuffle some things around because of how offensive things are going to be. We're going to see some high-scoring games in this league, especially on Sunday. And so the teams that have some pitching depth are going to rise to the top of the league. And the teams that don't are going to beat each other up in the middle. I think it's important to kind of see it as for what it is. So I'm excited about it. You guys should be too. And again, on Friday, we'll talk about the SEC West. All right, that's going to do it for today. Thanks, as always, for your support of the Boneyard. Looking forward to being back with you guys sooner rather than later. I'm going to pack a bag and head to Meridian. And this show is obviously available in all the regular formats. And then I'll post it on Gene's page a little bit later. And again, thanks so much for your support of the book. And look forward to getting your review from all of that. Until next time, let's all live our lives in a way we'll make more friends than enemies. And people can see a difference in the way we live.
Hear that? Is that America cheering or a sausage patty sizzling to perfection? It's time to cheer for Egg McMuffin and fresh cracked eggs at McDonald's. It's time to wake up to the aroma of freshly baked biscuits and treat yourself to a real honest-to-goodness morning meal. Breakfast, it's on at McDonald's. Now get any breakfast sandwich for just $2. Available only through the app. Mobile order and pay available at participating McDonald's. McD app download and registration required.